Let's talk Russia, Ukraine. The president last night on Air Force One, he talked on Air Force One. I got to tell you, we have a ton of audio. It's not great. In the greatest country in the world, you would think that we could hear the president of the United States when he speaks to the public. But he spoke last night. We're not going to play that. We're going to play you Marco Rubio from yesterday. Pretty optimistic. This is 106.
We had another very productive session building off Geneva, building off the events of this week. As I told you earlier this morning, our goal here is to end the war. But it's more than just to end the war. We don't just want to end the war, we also want to help Ukraine be safe forever, so never again will they face another invasion. And, equally importantly, we want them to enter an age of true prosperity.
All right, I'm going to play one more piece of sound, and then finally our very patient co-host will get in here. Tom Cotton, whose key voice tends to try to be supportive of the administration on things when he can be, but when he disagrees, he speaks up. He's been silent, as far as I can tell, until this morning on Russia. So here he is on Fox and Friends talking about the peace talks and what his perspective is. 121.
What should Witkoff's focus be when he talks to Vladimir Putin? What would actually get his attention? Senator, if I put you in that room, he's going to be there with Jared Kushner.
Well, Secretary Rubio said the meetings in Miami with Ukrainians yesterday were productive. He said the main focus, as it should be, is not just ending the fighting, but making sure the fighting doesn't renew in the future. Vladimir Putin is solely responsible for this unprovoked war of aggression, just as he was in 2014 when he invaded Ukraine the first time on Barack Obama's watch. So the key points, I think, for Ukraine is that they remain defensible territorial lines, geography matters here, and a military that can deter Russian aggression in the future, no matter who is the president of the United States or Ukraine or Russia. I think that's what the focus of Mr. Witkoff should be as he goes to Russia, and he should make it clear that President Trump means business. We're continuing to arm Ukraine through NATO. We've imposed sanctions on 2 major Russian oil companies. President Trump has called for Congress to pass a new sanctions bill. The pressure will continue to increase on Vladimir Putin. He will have more to lose on the battlefield and in his economy than if he comes to the negotiating table now to end this war that he started.
All right, pretty hawkish, but supportive, which is what I expected when we eventually heard from him. Ashley, where do you think you are? Are you bullish or bearish on the prospects of a deal?
I don't anticipate there will be a deal here. I think the question, though, is on whose terms, whether or not there will be a deal and whether Ukraine will accept it. It's my understanding, based on everything I've read and heard, that the president is leaning toward settling this thing on Russia's terms. I mean, he's always been pro-Putin, since he came into the White House. And so I think he'll, that won't change. I mean, what I find interesting is Senator Cotton basically saying, putting the blame on the war on Russia. I don't think that is a shared sentiment within the White House. So I think that question there: who is to blame, who started, who provoked, who's responsible, is really at the center of all of this. So I think that's what's going to continue to complicate this matter. But I don't see there being a peace agreement anytime soon, regrettably.
Hogan?
How far in the past am I allowed to go, since this is a forward-leaning show? Mark
You may reference the past as
just
a tool.
Don't bring up Joe Biden, okay?
Exactly.
Leave Joe Biden out of this.
you may reference the past as a tool to analyze the future, Hogan.
Okay, so let me just go a little bit past, and then we'll go into the future. I remember, because I'm old enough to do so, when it was Barack Obama who told Russia that they'd have more room to negotiate after the election. Of course, Hillary Clinton with the Russian reset, and that she wanted to have a better relationship with Russia, which makes sense, by the way. Joe Biden, who said if it's a minor incursion into Ukraine, it'll be fine. We'll let that happen. So we're in this mess because of feckless, failed policy from the past on the Democrat side. Donald Trump, though, is the president. Now he's got to fix it. I imagine we're further along the path to peace than we have been in the previous administration, because Donald Trump understands how the world is. He doesn't pretend it's how he wants it to be. He knows how it exists currently. He understands Vladimir Zelensky, someone that the left assured us was, of course, a joke, that he was just some failed comedian, that he was fully corrupt when Donald Trump was president. Now, all of a sudden, when Joe Biden was president, he was Churchill somehow. Some stories came out over the weekend. There were some oligarchs receiving billions of dollars, millions of dollars from American taxpayers. That's a problem. But that doesn't really address what we're talking about today and looking forward, Mark Halperin, which is, how do you get to a peaceful solution? Donald Trump has been very clear. He wants the fighting to end. He wants the bloodshed to stop. He will do whatever he can to work with both sides of this matter to get that accomplished. But he also said on countless occasions, it's really going to be up to those two men. It's their two countries. It's their two constituencies. It's their war-torn nations that are facing the brunt of this. So to the extent that this country, America, can broker that deal and help do so on the global stage, because I do believe we are now more feared, we are now more loved and respected than we have been in the past. We can do that to some degree. I will make this caveat, and I think Ashley's right. I don't know if we're going to get something out of this meeting because foreign policy is extremely nuanced. Oftentimes, you're dealing with nations that hate each other. It may be something that sparked up out of nowhere. It may be a battle or conflict that's been going on for thousands of years. Either way, there are all types of little chips to be moved around on this playing board here. And it looks like Donald Trump and his administration, at the very least, is at the center of it, trying to come to a peaceful solution.
All right, just a little update. Just now, post on X from Zelensky saying he's with Macron, and they did a conference call with the UK Prime Minister and Steve Witkoff to further discuss what was discussed in Florida over the weekend. Again, as Witkoff heads to Russia. So let's just close this one because we'll be talking about it all week. Ashley, I know you're bearish. 20% chance there's a deal by Christmas.
I don't see it happening.
So less than 20.
I don't see it. Definitely not happening by Christmas. Yeah. I mean, the issue though is Ukraine's not at the table. How do you negotiate a deal without them being at the table? I mean, that's what's making this all too complicated. And again, I mean, you compound that with the president's sort of admiration and love, unrelenting love for Putin. I mean, that really challenges the negotiations going forward. So I don't anticipate that we'll make it very
well.
Far
but they are at the table. They just spent the weekend in Florida. They just did a conference call with Witkoff. I mean, they may not be getting the deal of a lifetime, but they are being listened to, right?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think they're right. They're at the table, but the point though is whether or not they're actually, to your point, being heard at the table, whether or not their interests are being considered at the table, or whether or not it's just theater. And that's really the question here.
In a jumpsuit or in a suit, it seems like Zelensky's here a lot, talking to a lot of folks. He's at the table here, bending the ears of our elected officials. Not to mention the fact it wasn't too long ago when Donald Trump said, I think Ukraine can win this war. I'm kind of sick and fed up with Russia here because they're not coming through and following through with their promises on their side of the table. And let's not forget, Russia would have, in my opinion, been able to have wiped out Ukraine in one fell swoop had it not been for the aggressive weapons that Donald Trump gave Ukraine in the first administration. So he clearly sees this as the reality that it is.
I'm not indicting the president at all. I mean, don't get it wrong. I'm not indicting the president. I mean, my question is, the issue is going forward, whether or not there'll be a deal by the end of the year or by Christmas. Right. And I don't see that actually happening because, every deal that's come out, according to Zelensky, is really one-sided. And so, and that's held and that's accepted by the international community as well. So I think that is the sticking point, whether or not we can get to a deal that everyone can agree on.
Right. We got to move on. But I will say, talking to people in the administration in the last 36 hours, I actually think there's a better than even chance there's a deal by Christmas, which is a big change for me. We'll see, but they're very bullish.
Well,
and
it's better than that deal in Gaza. Hopefully it's better than that deal in Gaza. So
it just depends. I think it just depends on if Putin really wants to end the war. If Putin doesn't want to end the war, there's no deal that's possible.
Right.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America. And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.